Speaking of big tournaments, it is almost time to get underway with the third of the quarterfinals here in the main event of Age of Empires 4's Pro League. That's right, the first major 3 versus 3 tournament, and it is getting into the final days as we are almost ready to get underway with Tieu or Fallen versus VCL in a best of 5 to see who will go through to that semifinals, where they will later discover their opponents in either Los Polos Hermanos or Vietnam Legends. And right now, we're about ready to get into it. It is going to be the Taiwanese versus the Vietnamese as we get into game number 1. Game number 1 already throwing a curveball our way. The meta shifts and changes. And we've seen attempts at England, but we haven't really seen too much of this second part to it. And I love what I'm seeing, which is when we look across at Team 1, we notice that there is an Abbasid Dynasty pick here in the north. This is impressive. I actually love the idea of this. I'm excited to see a team this deep in the tournament attempt this. I remember watching Team Korea practice this in pub games and also in the show matches. I believe Lenok was their bottom, shall we say, on the Abbasids, because that's the functionality of the Abbasids. They function as this cannon fodder on the flank, they build spears, they buffer off any cavalry spammers on the other side, and then the whole concept is after you allow enough time for both your teammates to go up to castle, you quickly recover yourself, and having spearmen, archers, whatever it is on the front line, you immediately shift into mangonels and you look to close out the game. This is a very powerful element to Abbasids and 3-on-3. Most civs, when you're talking about in Dry Arabia, it's always about the cavalry, right? Everyone spams cavalry. Everyone tries to overrun each other. You know, we see, for example, we've got Rus here. We've got French on each side. And then, of course, the deviations, these two static ones in England and Abbasids. The whole purpose of these two in the mix, by the way, is that both of these civs allow you to actually eliminate a player, right? Quite early on. Because while we can talk about putting a player's head in the mud and drowning them out, choking them out of this game, right? Boxing them in, striking their economy, it doesn't necessarily mean they're out. We've seen fantastic recoveries in these 3v3s, actually, so far, after players got completely oppressed by cavalry spammers. The difference with England and the Abbasids is, with admittedly different timings, they're able to look for an opportunity to exploit into your base via siege. Of course, with England, it's about early longbow pressure leading into ram build-up, and then they push in. On the other side, the Abbasids are looking for that castle age timing where they get into their mangonels, and mangonels are bloody scary, guys. They are brutal when it comes to sieging buildings, doing about 100 damage per lob of rocks. For a unit that's meant to be dealing with like clumped up infantry and whatever else in the field, to do that much damage to buildings itself is quite impressive. So I'm excited to see how this dynamic's going to go. Tieu or Fallen definitely shouldn't be slept on here, guys. It's going to be a little bit confusing, I realize, looking at the names now, because if you guys haven't clocked it yet, the VCL lads, one of them is, he's called himself Tieu. So don't get confused by this. Team 2 is in fact VCL. They're the Vietnamese lads. And then Ciamgyic, DemonSheep, Sora, Kuma, these are all Taiwanese boys. And they already have quite the big target on their back. That's the one that everyone's looking at because Tieu were able to eliminate one of the favorites, the front runners, I say even, in this tournament, which was MarineLorD Capoch and Hera. It was actually these lads, Tieu or Fallen, the Taiwanese boys, they took them down 2-1, just short of making it here into the quarterfinals. So phenomenal display shown already by them in this tournament. And definitely looking like the dark horse coming out of that group stage that might just upset everyone here in the main tournament. So build-ups are going to commence. DemonSheep, by the way, we've cast him on the channel before. I've noticed Ciamgyic in the running. A lot of these players are top-tier players. It's actually impressive just how much of the final 8 teams is Asian, right? Because when we talk about Age of Empires, a lot of the talk that goes around about the competitive scene is it's heavily dominated by the Europeans and then the Americans, right? Primarily Europeans, though. And I'm the Euro boy. Despite what Brexit might tell you, you know, we're part of Europe too. We're in that kind of category of there's just too many of us competing. So I'm always excited to get a chance to represent new regions coming through and flourishing in this scene. And I think Vietnam has always had kind of a long-standing courtesy of the likes of ACCM, Backed, you know, Cool. They all come to mind, right? But it's nice to see some fresher faces coming out of the lads here, which is SayMyName, Noob, and Tieu. So for those, yeah, by the way, if you're wondering who Tieu is, as you can probably deviate from what I just described, he is Noob. Oh, looking like a noob. SayMyName actually does get rid of DemonSheep's mining camp. He did get the tech up, and in fairness, DemonSheep was rapid on this, quicker than anyone else in this game. Interesting move out of SayMyName as well. Notice that he shifts to the center player. We don't see this very often. Usually you assault the outer players because you don't want to be pinched. The difference here, however, is you're talking about to the south a Roost player and to the north an Abbasid player. This is probably the best game to raid the central player. This is such an exploitable factor. Not many opportunities present themselves like this because usually when you ride in the center, you sacrifice your army when there's aggression from both sides. But with the northern side having such a static force because they're the Abbasids and the southern side being the Roost looking to target Castle Age, this is probably the most pristine game I can show you where on Dry Arabia, a Mongol player can march into the center of the map and not be punished for it. I said the center of the map, the center of the enemy formation on this map. So, early Patron coming out, trying to set that pace. Remember, we've got quite a few deviations here, right? Because we didn't even talk about the secondary. The only common courtesy here is the French on each side. Of course, Rus is going to pick for Ciamgyic, but then on the other side, the counterpart is Mongols. So I do expect a lot more aggression coming out from VCL in the early phase of this game. I think they are a lot more locked in for it, right? England has a earlier power spike time than the Abbasids. The Mongols can ramp up very quickly. And then, of course, France is all about that raiding. So more kind of traditional to this map when I look across at what VCL are fielding compared to what Kyo brought out. Because Kyo, while I'm a big fan of the Abbasids in the mixer, I am a little bit question mark about the Rus-France combo. I think it can work, but I do think VCL have a fantastic opening to exploit this greed in comparison between the two lineups and try and shut up this game and lock it in by like 10, 11 minutes. And that doesn't mean there'll be a GG by 10 or 11. It just means at that stage, one of these players could be at an insurmountable, an unrecoverable point, right? Where they just can't seem to build up, they can't tech up, they can't do anything. But all that ahead. Good work so far by SayMyName. One detail I'm a bit disappointed in is the fact he hasn't brought anyone out to drop an outpost. I think that's a missed trick here. Outpost spamming is really what would optimize this strategy out of SayMyName better. So definitely room for improvement. Hopefully he brings one out soon. I think he's missing a big trick here, right? He's up in Feudal. He could have the Yan movement speed on these Spearmen, and also these Spearmen become 10 times more lethal when you give them range capabilities via garrisoning them in the outposts. And it looks like they're actually going to target the Roost player. This is very dangerous. You have a thin line to skirt here, right? Like there's only a small window in which you can actually punish the Roost player before he techs up in the castle and boosts up. But this is the timing. And they're also aggressing onto the player who's gathering up all the carcasses. Those carcasses which, were they dropped off? Yes, they were. So DemonSheep got some. I doubt that they gave some to the Abbasid. No, he's playing off sheep. Remember, he also has the berries, which he gathers from quicker. So he should be safe for a while. But this is actually really well played out of VCL. Note that they're drawing their fire towards the greed player. They are going completely to the opposite side of where the defensive player is, right? The one that's going to cover the early game. Because Sora Kuma, his role in this, as usually is with the Abbasids in Dry Arabia, is to just build these crap units in the beginning, right? Whether it's spearmen, whether it's archers. In this game, it's going to be archers because you're facing lombos on the other side. But the whole concept is you're meant to just patrol, you're meant to guard the greed of your teammates and then allow them to bounce back. And you can kind of see that greed factor as DemonSheep actually moved far north away from the front. This is so smart. A lot of players wouldn't be doing this. And it's good timing to do it. In the meantime, Sora Kuma actually went into Camel Archers. Up against the Spearman, not a bad play, but a very costly one. Remember, these are quite pricey. 180 food, and then I believe it was the 60, yeah, wood. So 240 overall. That's the same as a knight, for reference. A knight will give you a lot more, though. And Ram now up for SayMyName. He's running out of time, though. This aggression coming out from the other two players to cover Ciamgyic is actually closing that door quickly. You have to move, you have to move soon. And that is why SayMyName is now ramping up into a second battering ram, getting ready to go. With the Lombos in place, they may have played this perfectly. I think the Abbasid play, there's a lot of potential here, but the fact that you've been forced to go into Camel Archers in this type of game doesn't actually feel that good. The Lombos do pick you apart. The additional range, even though you've got all this health, it's all for nothing. You're light, right? You're not heavy cavalry. You don't have any range resistance. And there's only these knights, these green knights that you're countering out. The rest of it, yes, you get bonus damage against the spears, but there's no answer for the Lombos. And Rams are moving in. And they have to move fast. And look at the pivot. Ciamgyic, he can't wait around. He drops the high trade house behind his base, and he's going to switch into the racks. whole point of this, by the way, he needs the high trade house to support the push out of man-at-arms, because that is going to be what he's going to be looking to sell here on the field. Fight underway. Noob arrow. Trying to shift him around. Remember, this does affect your allies as well, so Tieu was able to reposition if need be, but he stands his ground. He's taking out the camels. All the camels being sniped out, but it may be too late. DemonSheep, he has the advantage over the French player on the other side now, as Tieu is behind. He needs to back off. He can't hang around, but if he backs off entirely, if he peels back, he's going to reveal the Lombos, and then Tieu will lose his force instead. DemonSheep continuing to pursue here. More camel archers riding over to ensure Tieu cannot take this fight. I was hesitant when I saw the count on this from Sora Kuma, but the synchronicity on point, the charge in, really well utilized. And then the mistake coming out from SayMyName, wasting the maneuver arrows so early in the battle, is giving the edge over to Tieu or Fallen. The fight continues, SayMyName, getting more spears into the mix, trying to hold them back. They can't lose the Lombo army. Tieu, if he ever loses a foothold here, England just feels like dead weight in this game. And that is why they just keep pushing it non-stop. The problem is with man-at-arms now coming out from Ciamgyic, they're finding very limited value here. Those man-at-arms definitely causing a lot of frustration, buffering their opponents away. And now that tech up in place, you still could go back for the horse archers, but it just may be a hard slog of man-at-arms. They need to be careful in the other bases, though, because there might be some sort of counter-attack coming out. Yeah, you can see the stables being built up by Sora Kuma now. I think the intent is going to be camel archers and lances, and this is such a turnaround to what we were expecting. And the reason they can do this now is because when you look on the other side, Ciamgyic, well, he can't build out in the field with his infantry. He's going to be this slow-moving static army. So expect him to go into the siege workshops and cover that angle for their composition, while the opposite player becomes the dynamic force in this trio. Really crazy turnaround. I mean, we've seen man-at-arms in the past, but I would not expect to see it coming out on these 3-on-3s. But it's a smart heads-up play. This is the signs of a great player, right? Someone who, under pressure, is able to pivot and transition and make it work in the greater composition. And that is all courtesy of the fact that Sora Kuma earlier identified that with no pressure coming his way, he was dead weight in this game unless he found a way to kick his hooves up and move fast. And that's what he does. And now Tieu, he's still stuck in a longbowman. This is where he can be a little bit fragile, because although longbows en masse can screw over camel archers, the problem is you might be displaced, because now the static force from your opponents is on the south side, the immediate opposite side of the map, and you have units that move at 1.12 tiles. This takes you a phenomenal amount of time to move across the battlefield. It means you're rarely going to be in place, and if they ever assault on the south side and move towards the Mongol, you're not going to be able to reinforce quick enough. I think we are still playing no eco-scaling. I think England could start to eco-scale, but his concern now is if he lets his foot up off the gas, they may just end up going over the side of the cliff anyway, and instead they have to keep fighting, and they're being chased. Camel archers getting in range, and the damage being offset. Look at it, Tieu down at 16 damage. Meanwhile, the normal Royal Knights for DemonSheep up at 20, but he's hesitant, he backs off. Spearmen are causing a little bit of anarchy here. Not enough man-at-arms in the mixer. It's a horse archer switch. Ciamgyic, he's finding himself a bit weak here as he's switching time and time again, trying to get a composition together. An unorthodox approach to the 3v3s being taken by Tieu or Fallen, as each of their players are diversifying their armies instead of providing one element of the killing blow. That killing blow is coming through. A back away by Tieu. Tieu not able to hold on up against the camel on ease and the numerous knights coming out from DemonSheep. You have to question, is DemonSheep going to do the same? Are we going to get treated to Arbalatriers? Because so far, in the south, Ciamgyic now has transitioned from man-at-arms into horse archers as well. And then in the north, of course, we're seeing a push-out coming of not only these camel archers, but likely going to be some stable units soon, whether it's the camel riders or the lancers. In the meantime, they will pursue. These man-at-arms are moving fast. Obviously not in the grand scheme of things, it's 1.12, but it's the distance they're covering. It's the Lombo factor, right? It's the same amount of time to arrive, but the difference is when you arrive, you could do a lot more right now. And it's a fragile state for Tieu. Tieu really doesn't provide anything. He needs a secondary TC, or he needs a boom up in the castle. At the moment, it looks like he's saving for the castle, which means they might be vulnerable in the south, and that's exactly where they're going. SayMyName in on to the infrastructure, trying to burn it down before the Lancers come out, and he will be able to do so at this rate. And the Spears cannot contest this. And this is a problem. SayMyName, he needs relief soon. But look at the count. Tieu is not there. He doesn't have enough knights to assist this. And with the amount of scouts riding in from Ciamgyic, all of a sudden, this game is about to take quite the topple and turn for the side of VCL. Knights riding through, trying to cut off the retreat. Man-at-Arms riding into the economy with the Knights. SayMyName has to be a little bit scared right now, but he needs troops, he needs assistance, he needs a bailout. There's no counter aggression going on this map. Look how peaceful it is on the right side. And it means that SayMyName is being fully thrown under the bus. He's going to retreat to the west, but the Knights see him, and 2 Knights alone could run down all 16 of these villages. Meanwhile, your infrastructure being burnt down by the remaining scouts. Man-at-Arms is going to regroup here. Just a few camels offset any ability for Tieu to push in. And we said that these lads would be the dark horse here. We said they'd set a high standard. Tieu will fall and shown us exactly why as they break the meta to open up Dry Arabia with this unorthodox Abbasid pick. And it is paying huge dividends here. But they are being sniped out. And that gives an edge. They no longer have to worry about the camel on ease, but they have to worry about their teammates. SayMyName in trouble. SayMyName still being chased on too. Dodges them out to the north. The Knights aren't here now, and that means you're a little bit exposed. Man-at-Arms are tanky, but it is still Knights versus Man-at-Arms with assistance of the longbows. Those longbows holding true. The attack speed arrow coming out, allowing that extra DPS to get through a lot of these Man-at-Arms and Horse Archers. Have they done it? Can they save him? SayMyName, still in it for the moment, but look who's on the prowl because DemonSheep, he's still hunting. He says, even if we don't end him here, we can shut SayMyName out, and SayMyName now down to 41 eco. And the burns continue. There's enough man-arms here. The relief was not good enough. They could not hold it. They were forced back by a small contingent. And they need to get out of dodge. The best thing they can do is they can try to pull the step readout away. Otherwise, they're going to get sniped down on all 3 of the landmarks. And then it's going to be a 2 versus 3. And the villagers retreat. 20 of them running to the north. SayMyName, he's trying to save up for Imperial. That's what this move is. He's trying to shift away, give himself a secondary TC, and give himself a recovery point where he stays in this game before he loses all the landmarks. This could be big, but he's going to need to be fast. And here we go. Retreat coming out from Tieu. He's been sold out. Yes, he's up at castle. Yes, these vet longbowmen are a little bit more spooky, but there's enough troops to run him down with a retreat, and he can't really turn around anymore. No cavalry here to delay the charging coming from DemonSheep. Means you're going to lose a lot of troops. And in the back, SayMyName, still not there yet. He needs more food. He needs it desperately. He's going to move everything away. Pastures shifting to the west. This step readout completely ignored will keep him alive. However, he will lose his military buildings. And Tieu, in the meantime, final player, will reach up into Castle Age. But he needs to upgrade these knights quickly. He's being outclassed. DemonSheep has the edge. The Lombos are holding him in this game for the moment. The problem is you can only do this so long. You just had to do this for the Mongol player who needed help being held into this game. And now you might be forced to do the exact same thing for your French player. And then where does the buck stop? Who's left? Who's going to protect Tieu when the boys come knocking? It's looking like no one at this rate. And SayMyName. This, if he pulls this back, this will be a miraculous recovery. He is trying to get together the resources to build a new TC and get himself back into this game. Mongols will rise again, he says. But it's going to be a long way. His main base, he could sneak in and try to repair it. There's been a lot of ignorance away from it now. But in the meantime, Ciamgyic building that army big, building it strong. And the Mangonels, here it is, finally happening. Sora Kuma goes back for the infantry, and now on the front line will get the siege weaponry that will give them the edge to even shut Tieu out of this game. Tieu all fallen, as a result, starting to live up to their name as they look to get rid of Tieu, a.k.a. Noob, and his lads. Khan, trying to keep eyeballs on, just needs to get the hell out of dodge. He sees the army coming in, but can they counter it? With a Mangonel here, I'm somewhat skeptical. Forces the villagers off of their farms, right in, raiding. France on France. Oh, the depravity, the inhumanity of it. And the Mangonel about to send something heavier than arrow the way of the Lombos. Lombos backing up. Start stepping and firing as they go. Vetted Royal Knights out of Tieu can slow things down a little bit, but the Man-at-Arms are staying on top of him, and the Mangonel keeps on chasing. Burn attempt coming out from Tieu. Reduced damage, though. The camel on ease will ensure he definitely doesn't get through the Mangonel, and Tieu has to fall back entirely. He's got crossbows coming, though. This could be the decider. If he can get them out en masse quick enough, he could turn the battle here. He could turn the tide, but the Mangonel is really the scary factor. There's always keeping him on the back foot and causing huge damage to his lines. Meanwhile, in the back, SayMyName has rebuilt. He's got a new TC. He's trying to get back into this game. The problem is the sacrifice given in return might be that he's going to lose Tieu at this rate. As the landmarks are slowly being burnt down, the Royal Institute is at least hidden towards the back, towards his English teammate's base. The camels are now moving in. Mangonels, they need to bring some more. Where are they, though? They've got a few troops moving across. Crossbows in the field could build more Mangonels, and that could be what they need to break this game. But looks like they've already broken it. Yep. GG comes out. Tieu says it's a nice attempt to try and get our lad back in, but, well, he can move his base. Mine's a little bit more static, and as a result, he is going to GG out. First game will go to Tieu All Fallen, as Tieu will be the last person to tap out for VCL. For game number 2, because we are about to get underway. Tieu All Fallen, Rapido, quickly taking the lead with an unorthodox Abbasid pick on Dry Arabia. And now we move into the follow-up. It is going to be map number 2 of this best of 5. And the choice, well, the choice is going to be on Highview. And on Highview, we are not going to get a mirror matchup. Of course we aren't. That random assortment of civs in the first game means that anarchy ensues as we head across to Highview. With so many questionable choices, my mind is melting. Just have a look at it yourself. Don't look directly into the strategy, though. It might melt your brains. As we are going to have DemonSheep on England. It is going to be Ciamgyic playing as the Mongols, and then rounding it out, they're going to have an HRE player, which is going to be manned by Sora Kuma. And that is only Tieu Fallen. Those are the lads that took game 1. Shifting to the south, it is very different. Tieu, also a first-time appearer here on Highview in the 3v3s, is going to be China. Meanwhile, in the center, Tieu, that's the traditional factor. He brings out the Rus, and then rounding it out, it is now going to be more Abbasid action. SayMyName says, it is my turn, and it is your turn to say my name. We'll see what he can do, though. So first thing to look at here is who's going to be the Pro Scout builder. There's a decent amount of flexibility for the Northern team here. It can either be the HRE player or the Mongol. Most likely it's going to be the HRE player. He's going to play greedy and play towards those relics. Meanwhile, in the South, you still have flexibility, but likely it's just going to be the Rus player. China could be the Pro Scouter. I think it's definitely going to be Rus, though. Usually the center player is going to be Greed, which makes sense definitely for the North because they have the HRE player. One interesting thing to consider here as well is that this... Not only is it amazing because it's a full 6 different civs, right? There's no second appearance of a civ. The other really cool factor about this is it's the religious wars between Rus and the HRE. You actually have the 2 best civs in the game at playing towards religion because, of course, HRE want that big buffer into their economy from the Regulates Cathedral of each relic giving 300 gold per minute. Meanwhile, their opponent can count them out. So with the Rus, you get a quick castle age timing as well. You build into the Abbey Trinity, and you have very mobile monks that can take away these relics. And that's your goal in this game. You want to starve out Sora Kuma so he can't fully exploit the economical benefits of the HRE. As it stands right now, though, he's doing a decent job of exactly that, as he has optimized the way that this is played out. Didn't really have to change anything. His gold vein was to the south, so his sheep being in front of his TC works out perfectly. Usually, if you're talking about moving your prelate any other direction, you should shift your food line at the TC to that corner to shorten the distance so they actually optimize the amount of people that they are holy inspirationing. Could have just went with holy inspiring, but holy inspirationing, guys. Meanwhile, in the south, if we look at the layout for China, China got a decent one as well. The tree lines, the juicy detail you want. Stone is actually retracted behind you, double stone in fact. This is actually a golden situation for China. You don't really want your stone in the front. You want to be able to smuggle up behind and give yourself that option to multi-TC. The cool thing in this game as well is the composition of having Rus and China, with Rus being a greedy player, actually opens up a lot of flexibility for China, for Tieu, to be the greedy factor past the 10 minutes mark, right? That's when you talk about, like, maybe you've already got 1 TC and you're considering going up to a 3. Maybe you're talking about them rushing up to castle, trying to get yourself into the Yuan dynasty so you get access to Fire Lancers. And the thing is that by the time you're considering these things, Tieu is going to cover you because, remember, the Rus, they're locked in. They're sorted by about 10 minutes, right? They've already got the tech-free. They've already got their archery ranges down. They're already pushing out the unit they're going to push out for almost the entire game. And that leaves a lot of wiggle room for your teammates to exploit. We could even see that out of the Abbasid player. In fact, when you look on the flanks, both of these players like building TCs. It is possible that both of them will be insanely greedy. The only question is whether they'll get away with it when they're up against England and the Mongols. And they are the flanking players, right? So if you do go greedy with your outer civs, you might come under fire heavily because England is going to ramp up instantly with the landmark already being built. And also, as the Abbasid, you have to get archery ranges. There's nothing else you can really do. You can try to build in the stables, but I think in this type of game, with the assistance of Mongols potentially, you can be shut down. And that's the detail I'm looking for. Ciamgyic is so retracted away from Tieu. I was thinking he might play to the right side and punish the Abbasids, but no, look what he's doing. He's moving in already. So Ciamgyic riding across here, looking to get the outpost down on top of the berry bush line. And China, they can counter this, but they need to be fast. Remember, China builds structures quicker than other civs, but they do need the wood. And that is why he's been saving 230 wood in the bank right now. A little bit of scout coming out from Tieu. Not going to be ultimately punished, though. 1 or 2 longbowmen, not going to be good enough to begin it. Here we go. Moving out. Tech up starting to come through, and as they do, the scouts are arriving from Ciamgyic. Ciamgyic now up to 3 scouts with the Khan as well, and the horsemen following as well. Where is the villager, though? It's such a big map to cover. It's still not here yet. But once it is, you're going to deny a lot of food away. China doesn't have any fallback plan right now. China, like we said, they don't go to pro scouts themselves. They could be enabled, though, right? If this is the siege, think about the siege relief. You're playing with a Roost teammate. Your Roost teammate could provide you with a lot of food via pro scouts dropping off the deer carcasses. But right now, here we go. There's that outpost we talked about. It's being dropped. They need to apply some pressure. You need to punish. So also Tieu has to back off. He's going to lose one of the villagers, though. He gets trapped. However, Ciamgyic has to back away. The gunfire from the TC almost costing the horseman there. Did not want to hang around. Now the outpost will go down. Ciamgyic building it on the edge. Nothing you can do to stop this right now. This is the problematic element of the way that China opens, right? You know they're going to be greedy. You know it's going to be exploitative. And you're up against the Mongols. And this is the punishment that you reap. The scout moving out is really not going to be a threat. In fact, he's going to get boxed in. Mistakes made by Tieu. Will lose his scout. They won't charge in because remember the outpost is here. You don't want to lose your units. Actually, he's baiting him to just garrison. That's a bit of a mistake. Missed micro by Ciamgyic. He should have kept the weak one back and then moved in with the full health ones to stop them gathering. But it's fine. The outpost is still going to go down. Meanwhile, in the center, DemonSheep already trying to poke and prod, but outpost coming out from SayMyName will deny him. His job is a lot harder than the Mongol player. Ciamgyic has a much easier time of applying pressure because China finds it harder to initially have that fielded unit to defend themselves, and also Mongols ramp up pressure much quicker than England do. I think that's maybe not the best choice of words. I'd say England ramps up pressure better, but the Mongols do it earlier, right? It slowly crawls. Think about the way these two civs play. England tries to reach that snowball level of longbowmen where they then build into rams end the game. Meanwhile, the Mongols are like, I'm going to build an outpost here. I'm going to build an outpost here. All of a sudden, you're playing prison warden, right? And the naughty prisoners in your camp, the Chinese here, are not allowed out past their curfew. And that's your goal. You want to starve them off the resources, which is what you've already done here. They can't access the food. He needs to get Spearman out. Stone is being gathered right now. Tieu is going to try to boost himself up, but he's going to have to deal with this outpost very soon. And he might have to sacrifice a few troops to do so. That is why he's building in the Spearman. It's not even about the Horsemen. It's the fact that he's going to have to sacrifice a few units to burn through this, and it's going to get harder. The arrow slits are being built, and they're going to be built in time, and this is going to hurt. Here we go, upgrade. Start to target the spears. Spears moving out. They do more damage than the villagers, of course. I would prioritize the villagers here, though. Just put a dent in his economy. Killing the spears don't really help you. Here we go. Starts to change far over. Some of these villagers getting weak. The repair move coming out from Ciamgyic is cheeky. And he will now be punished for it as the spearman will chase him down. I don't think he got that much value. I'd say that was a scout, a villager, and 2 spearmen. That was the optimal situation for Tieu. He doesn't sacrifice much of his economy, and Ciamgyic gets punished for being out of position. But he's going to rebuild the outpost again. And this just gets frustrating now. You have to commit. With this many horsemen here, I don't think you're going to kill the villager in time, so he will get the pressure back in. In the meantime, back in his base, nice move by Sora Kuma. Sora Kuma providing for his lads. Ciamgyic will have the option for Magadai at this rate. I don't expect it, though. I expect him to just stick hard into the spam at the moment with light cavalry and then switch over to Lancers once he booms up. And speaking of booming up, Regnit's Cathedral about to be cracked. Meanwhile, his counterpart on the other side in this game really is Tieu, and Tieu almost done with his own as well. The question is, are you in position on the relics? Yep, one over here is ready. And I believe, yeah, he's shifting across one here. Didn't move into the center. That's a little bit too contested a ground for him right now. But he should at least get 2 relics, and that's good enough. If you're an HRE player and you get 2 relics, you're very happy. Even if it's 3v3. Scouts will hop in. Trying to frustrate again, but unable to do so. Just out of range. Nice move by Tieu. He gets some extra sheep, brings them back, and also the current ones are just out of range. So will not be punished. And walls will go down. Nice move. I like this out of Tieu. It's just a small staging point if he wants to go archers, and that's what he's doing, yeah. He's expecting the pressure to ramp up. Like we said, the Mongols don't snowball instantly in these type of games. It's all about a slow choke out. So he's just trying to deny that, give himself the extra range that if Ciamgyic ever builds these outposts around here, remember that when your units stand on the walls, they get 2 extra tile range. See? Up to 7. He's now a Lombo. Which means that if you were to build at that range from here, right, this outpost again, then your villager would get sniped. Meanwhile, on the eastern front, it's ramping up. DemonSheep, while we've been focusing on this, he's been drawing attention elsewhere. This is what I'm loving out of Kyo Fallen, by the way. They don't sit on the levels. They don't chill back. They're playing a much quicker game than any other team I've seen in this tournament so far. And you can see it by the way that they're applying pressure on both flanks with aggressive civs. And they're prepping for a later timing in the center because the stable's already going down and the Knights are now pushing out. Knights that will deal with pretty much everything that VCL are going to field right now better than they're going to actually ever imagine. Because right now you're dealing with horsemen, you're dealing with a few spearmen and archers, which are going to be outmaneuvered, and there's going to be horse archers that are going to take a lifetime and a half to get through those knights. But I don't think you can have a lifetime and a half to wait. The fight's already beginning. Whoa, big mistake there. DemonSheep taking a lot of damage on his Lombos. Jumps the gun, getting in range. And now knights come through. Just one, that's enough to scare you. There's enough Lombowmen here with the attack speed and 1 or 2 knights to just deter you entirely. SayMyName needs assistance. He needs it now. The horse archers are coming, but Tieu, I don't think this is enough yet. More knights coming through. The longer you wait, the worse this gets. The tech advantage, I have to give it to Sora Kuma. He's a lot more lethal in these fights. They're trying to burn down the battering ram. Trying to ride forward. They're scared, though. They're paranoid. Look at the sacrifices for nothing here. He's covering the burn down of the battering ram, but it's not even quick. And in fact, they won't even get it. It's going to live. He'll back it up. He might even try to repair it if he's got a villager on the front here. In the meantime, the Lombo army increases in the south. Looks like there's going to be a raid in. Ciamgyic jumps straight in on top of the archers where the horsemen get bonus damage up against them. And now we'll back away. Did, of course, lose that one outpost due to the Stonewall Tower being able to spring all the crap out of it. But pressure is mounting, trying to sneak around the side here towards his production lines. This would be fantastic. If he can deny the accruement of troops coming out of Tieu, this would be a deal breaker. The problem is in the north still. They're trying to repel. More battering rams being built, and they've been repaired up. DemonSheep min-maxing the value of his economy here. Bringing one villager out to repair that is worth it compared to building a new fresh one for another 300 wood. Now with 2 rams, you're reaching that critical threshold. Once you're up to 3, that's when you get really scary at this point in the game. We're not even 12 minutes in. He's already got the 2 rams up. He's got support in the front from the knights. And you have to question, what are you looking for if you are VCL? What is your comeback? It has to be getting Mangonels, but look at the numbers. SayMyName. He keeps building cannon fodder. He's the bottom in this game. He doesn't get to build quality, and that's a problem. Lombos moving in again. Starts the attack speed. And they will feel that attack speed. Knights charging in. Blocks them out before they can actually close gap on DemonSheep. Trying to wrap on top. They know they have to go. It's do or die. And now they're trapped in. In for that penny and in for the pound. And they're about to get a pound in for it. There's just not enough horsemen here. The Lombos are reigning supreme, and they have to retreat away, and now they're picking apart the horse archers as well. Knights, in the meantime, focus fire onto SayMyName, and his army is spent, and he's in trouble. The Sacred Site's now starting to be capped. Pressure kept onto China. Tieu, they need him here, but he's never relieved. He's never moving out. He's not even really scaling himself. He's in a lot of trouble. He couldn't even go for the secondary TC. And Tieu Fallen are looking like they're getting very close to putting themselves 2 up quickly in this series, as there seems to be no reprieve for the lads in the south. Vietnam is going down fast here. If they get knocked out, the hopes in this tournament aren't completely gone, courtesy of the fact that Vietnam Legends are still going to play later today, but you really did want to keep those numbers up. You really did want to turn it into your own home field national battle between two Vietnamese teams, but it's not looking that way. Tieu Fallen not letting up. This Lombo count always outnumbering the Horse Archers. And then, although the attack speed buff isn't there, it's about to be rejuvenated. A new outpost gets dropped. Speaking of outpost being dropped, another one of SayMyName's defenses is about to fall, as the Knights will ride in to speed this up just a little bit to give access for the Lombos to move in quicker. In the meantime, in the south, it looks like he's finally got the Mongol player out of his base, but the Mongol player switches sides now. Ciamgyic moving across, looking the outpost down, because he knows this line's going to be exposed, and it looks like he is able to see them without even using the Falcon. And the amount of assassination going on here. Tieu, he's distracted in the north. The fight's going on, so he doesn't know that he's bleeding villagers to that powerful Khan with 12 damage in the back of his base. All the while, bleeding troops on the front as well. Very problematic. This is my big concern now. The TC in the back as well. SayMyName in full recovery. I just don't think you got time for it. The Horseman play had to happen. He needed a clear count to the Lombos. Maybe you spam Archers, but I think he was always paranoid about Sora Kuma's Knights. You know that's coming from the HRE. The big details, you never get the relief out of China here. China never gets the option to play greedy. You have no recovery point in your game. Your recovery point is SayMyName. He's the only one with a secondary TC, but he's the one who's likely to be eliminated first. And if he does go down, there's no bounce back. There's no we're going to trade it for a player, because you haven't actually stepped foot onto the side of Tieu Fallen's map at all. Territory-wise, you haven't been in their side once. They've been free of all pressure, and that is really the difference maker here. It's the fact that they took aggressive civs and they successfully applied that pressure. Something that we have not seen out of VCL all game. Now free Rams. Looking to ram you off this map. They might just do it at this rate. Knights being targeted are going to ride in. Sides against it, though. You don't need a hard commit. The Rams are going to do the business. And once they just break out and look to emergency repair, that's when the Knights can move in. Shouldn't say emergency repair with an HRE player in the game, but that's kind of what it is in this situation. You're going to be ringing the bell and panicking because you need everything. South side, outpost is still down. OCTU, what is he even doing anymore? He's trying to transition into farms because he doesn't even have his berry bushes. And this detail, this crippling detail, has shut him out of this game so hard. And now, with the TC on fire, DemonSheep looking to give that final ram that puts that TC down in the dust. Emergency repairs coming out from 15, maybe that's 16 villagers trying to keep this up and alive, but it's just too much firepower and too much on fire and no wood to work with. The TC is gonna fall and they have breached them. They can move in. And now just one landmark remains. The Abyss is the primary target here for good reason, because after the TC goes down, there's only one building you have to siege after, and it's always close by. And the ride in, the Knights, the count is too high. The Horse Archers are in panic mode. There's too many Lombos here. SayMyName's pitiful attempt at a ride around is going to be buffered off and butchered in the face of the power of Tieu Fallen. And they will take game 2 here. There is no way to stick in this. And they will call it right there. OCTU, he's been playing pat cake with himself in the corner for a good 15 or so minutes now. He wants out, he wants game 3, and Tieu Fallen want 3 games in their favor as they take the second one already and look very likely to blitz this series unless something drastic changes with the way that VCL is playing the game. You know what? Enough of the talk about the future of esports. We need to talk about the future of these two teams, as VCL is 1 game away from elimination, and they will have to make their stand in this 3rd map on Lipany. Let's get into it. Not even waiting around, because what's the point of talking to mirrors? Because it's only going to be 1 mirroring. Look what's happened. It's a repeat. Nah, I'm kidding. It's not a repeat. We've got 1 change. But the repeat of the Abyss versus England is there. We've got France on both sides. But instead, it's going to be Roos on the side of Tieu Fallen. And actually, Tieu himself is going to take HRE instead of the Mongols. So that 1 detail, the 1 switch up, everything else from game 1 the same. It seems that the approach in game 3 for the side of VCL is, you know what we need? Guys, you know what we were missing? We were missing greed. Assassin's greed is what this might turn out to be, because they may have just actually stabbed themselves in the foot. Because what they are up against is a lot of high-tempo aggression potential, right? We didn't see it fully realized last game, but this time it's the Rus and it is the French. We can talk about the cavalry mobility, and then there's the siege crawl afterwards. You're on a fine timer. You need to be quick. The problem is you have this very kind of dip your toe and then go, oh, I don't want to go in, it's too cold approach to, like, fight as the VCL. What I mean by that is you've got England, and then you've got your French. They're going to run aggression. They're going to like try and be mobilized. They're going to try and move in. But then your central player isn't going to be there for a while. Tieu's going to be waiting longer, I'd say, than the Roost player to get proactive. Because it's going to take you a bit longer to gather up those relics. You need those relics to get enough knights out. Meanwhile, Ciamgyic isn't gold capped the same way. His gold is just a means to like deny more gold to his opponent and get tech over time. His units only require food and wood, which means he starts scaling the moment he hits castle. There's a quicker timing for him than there is for the HRE player. And my other big concern is the scalability of these two northern civs. Right? I'm doing the same issue because it really does matter here. Abbasids are better than England unless you're talking Hyper-Imperial Age. Why I'm saying they're better in general is like most of these games in 3v3s are castle ending, right? And if we're talking castle, you're talking Lombo spam, anything you build really static as England. You don't really have that much flexibility versus Abbasids with either the, well, it's either going to be Camel Archers, which is still going to counter out your two teammates, or it's going to be Siege Weapons, which counters out you. So I think they haven't necessarily addressed the Abbasid issue, and I think HRE is a bit of a gamble here on such an open map. I do want to see what they can do. It is a kind of curveball. I think if they can drag this layer, they can be stronger. I think the delicate detail they're going to struggle to balance compared to Game 1. I think the kind of reassessment, the resurgence of Game 1 in this for them is going to be the fact that they are going to be hard-pressed behind choosing between aggressing early and being greedy later. And I think they're going to get tripped up by that. I think it's a lot more straightforward for Kieu or Fallen. Kieu or Fallen should just have a very simple raid with knights, get the horse archers in the mix, and then if they build loads of cavalry, we'll either have camel archers or we'll already have Sora Kuma making his way up to castle a little bit slower, but he'll be moving across with archers towards England's base, and then we'll build siege, right? It's a very cut and dry strat. They don't need this transition, but I think really Sora Kuma, the way he played in Game 1, the phenomenal display, he's going to be the deal maker or the deal breaker here. And unless they find a way to punish him, I'm a little bit worried. And I don't think they can punish into the south the same way they did in Game 1. Game 1, they were enabled by the fact they had a Mongol. A Mongol which was able to instantly move across, look to snipe into France, and then switched over for the aggression on Rus, which eventually led to the downfall, right? But it's where they look strong. This game, I don't see the same aggressive potential in the first 12 minutes because of the way they've drafted this. For those wondering what map this is, by the way, I know it's a little bit confusing due to the nature of the center. This is Lipany. King of the Hill, I think they took out the rotation for 3v3s. It had some balancing issues. And then also, you can easily tell it's Lipany because despite the central hills, there are 3 sacred sites here on Lipany, while King of the Hill only has 1. So, tech up's underway. Council Hall is being built. And the Council Hall is going to be slower than the Eco Wing. That's a little bit surprising. What happened here? I'm trying to see what the deviation was. Oh, I see what he's done. I think he put 1 or 2 extra people on wood compared to other people at an earlier point. So it looks like his gold gathering wasn't the problem. His food was lagging behind. So it's going to slow him down. This will hurt his timing a little bit. I don't like that he's not the first up into feudal. I think it's quite a deal breaker when you as the England player get beaten to that punchline. Usually it's one of your biggest power spikes is that you dictate you reach feudal first and you get units out first. But that means that Sora Kuma can do this. Look. He hasn't seen the tech up yet. This is so smart out of Sora Kuma. Remember, going the double archery range, it gives you the fallback of going for the camel archers again. But most importantly, it means you're going to be able to ramp up into archer production and match the output of your counterpart instantly to the west. And this is going to hurt SayMyName a lot. Meanwhile, in the south, scouts moving about, just trying to gather things up. Of course, we do expect pro scouts to be coming out from the Rus player. On the other side, I do expect pro scouts to be taken by, the French player. You can always see it. The reason you give it to the French player is because he's able to get these scouts easier. Remember, he generates them faster. And it means your HRE player can simply and solely commit himself to a faster castle timing, which is what you need to crack if you stand a chance of winning this. What? Oh, no. That's a bit problematic. So Tieu hasn't fully dedicated himself to the rapid tech up. He actually went for pro scouts himself. Now, I kind of understand to a certain extent, right? Like, it's not the same as having a Rus player who has been already generating a bunch of scouts. France still has to build them up. But I think you should trust the system. You should trust the power of France to deliver to you, right? He's next to you. He's your neighbor. If you were, say, the northern player here and the France was the southern player, I'd understand getting your own pro scouts. but I don't agree with this move out of Tieu. I think this is leaving him a bit weak. It's slowing him down. I know that the HRE do have surplus in their eco to be able to afford Pro Scouts more feasibly than other civs and not worry about it. My concern is I am worried about it because it means that your timing is going to be later, and it means that Ciamgyic is going to get a bigger window of opportunity to punish you with horse archers the moment he cracks castle. Because you aren't going to get a chance to crack castle before him. You can already see it in the numbers, in fact. How is Ciamgyic doing on the bounty? Only 410 right now. I'm seeing if there's anything they're missing. Yeah, they missed the deer right in the back corner. That's an easy one to not see, though. It looks like they did get scouted out in the end, but it's such a long run to go over there towards. Meantime, DemonSheep already setting the tempo here as he moves towards OC Tieu, he went greedy in the Pro Scouts. This is another complementary element of having Rus and France, right? Rus provide France with the deer. They don't have to go for Pro Scouts themselves. Notice that he's got this mill down, but it's only to gather berries. Also, maybe have these guys gather berries. There's a little bit of a sub-optimization here at DemonSheep. He's got a lot of idle economy at this stage in the game, which might hurt him a bit. But overall, this is a better complementary strategy because usually the issue you have now is you're offset by about a minute, possibly 2 minutes on getting your knights out, and it means that DemonSheep's in your base, even on a 3-on-3 map, and he already has 2 more knights than you. It's very hard to defend yourself. I think Tieu at least gets away with it due to this detail. He dropped an outpost. If it wasn't for the outpost, he would be in a lot of trouble right now. I think there's too much fixation, actually, right now from DemonSheep on the French counterpart. I think he's doing this because he doesn't want to enable a raid into Ciamgyic's economy. But I think from your position, you should be riding north and looking to put a dent into Tieu's. Remember that Tieu has a 40% more efficient economy, but any dent, any villager removed from that line is a heavy hit, especially once you reach down to certain critical masses. So Tieu, let's say he's at 28 right now. If you get him down to 20, it's such a big dent in his timings, it's going to delay him by a lot. Instead, Tieu already on his way up, but Ciamgyic is beating him to the punchline. And Ciamgyic, look what he's doing again. It's still not going to be Abbey of Trinity. He goes once again in the high trade house. This guy knows something we don't. I think he just likes easy gold. He's like, guys, I just want to focus on the fights. I don't want to have to worry about micro and people picking up relics. Screw religion. I don't believe in it. I'm just all about the deer. The deer are the way of life. And this does mean he will definitely guarantee the bounty system. I don't think it needs that much help in a 3-on-3. But it's still a curious choice to dedicate himself to high trade house so often, considering how powerful Abbey of Trinity is for the 50% discount on monks and the instant access to them. The weird part as well, by the way, about these type of games when we do see Horse Archer spam and we see Abbey of Trinity, is I do, in a lot of ways, feel like high trade house should make more sense with the Horse Archers. Just because you don't really need the gold, and it's just nice to have the food on the side instead, right? The infinite deer. Compared to, say, a knight composition or, say, a heavy siege composition, it feels like you might benefit more from having your hands on the high trade house, right? Sorry, the Abbey of Trinity, because you want to actually get that gold trickle. This is a cool concept out of Ciamgyic, though. Notice that he goes back for the monastery anyway. The whole reasoning being now, if he does get his lion's share of the relics, although he's paying more initially for the warrior monks, he's always passively generating 100 gold. So if you talk about late game situations, you're technically min-maxing in that regard, because you only need so many warrior monks when you get into hyper late game, like Imperial standards, you're probably done with them, right? So I think Ciamgyic, the reason he does high trade house is I think he's setting himself up for like a ultra late game situation to bounce back on, whereas I think Abbey of Trinity is definitely more of a kind of mid-game in. I think actually you can get away with high trade house a lot easier when your opponents don't have Rus as well. When your opponent does, it's that comparative where if your opponent does something, you have to do it as well, right? Think about when we see England drop a monastery and then another static civ like France does it, because all of a sudden that variable comes into play that you have to contest on. And these contests from right now from DemonSheep, I don't even know why Tieu has taken this for a second. He shouldn't be doing this. He's so far behind on the knight count and he's keeping himself there now. And now Camel Arch is moving in. So Sora Kuma is looking to actively raid. He's looking to give that Camel on ease and just try to deny his opponents out. And keep in mind that Tieu is not going to be happy with this. Look what he's doing. He's hard committing into the stables. He's going for the trip stable drop. Sometimes we see the quadruple, but right now he doesn't have any relics banked in his cathedral, hence why he stopped at 3. Just a little bit of chase on the side. By the way, just to recap the final detail, because maybe I feel like maybe I didn't fully make my thoughts clear. The reason why this trade house shouldn't be that big of a deal in a 3-on-3 is you should never be denied the bounty system. Well, not never, but almost never. And there were deer right in the back corner. And I think with the boars as well, keep in mind you can select them later. This is, of course, a safer option to get that bounty system unlocked, though. Like I said, I think it's about later game timing. I think Ciamgyic does this because he wants an insurance policy. And he might not even need it. They're already pushing in. DemonSheep has applied so much pressure to Tieu. I just don't like the way that they played this format. I already said it. The layout, the fact that both of them went into Pro Scouts means Tieu was a little bit slower on his castle age timing. He didn't actually bank any relics yet, and I think he's been intercepted every time because most of the relics are located towards the center here, where DemonSheep has been split up and guarding. And that is the detail that is breaking this game right now. It is taking way too long for Tieu to return relics. One is finally coming back from the north, but that is not going to cut it. My oh my. SOS, someone please send help. And I don't know when that help's coming because look what's happening in the north. Say my name. This is an all-in gambit. This is a screw it. We're done either way. Let's see if we stand a chance here. He's trying to take the 5% they've got left in this game and turn it into a win. And this is a Hail Mary. Mangonels are already in the base of Sora Kuma. Sora Kuma teched up, remember. This is going to backfire hard for SayMyName, but he doesn't have a choice because once again, being this static force, he's been outmobilized in the south. He can't respond there or he'd expose himself and be out of position. So instead, he tries to raid in. And this raid is problematic. The Mangonel's already scaring him off. The ranged fire is not going to be effective against the battering rams, but he has problems trying to engage here. Mangonel's going to get rid of the villagers as well. Big mistake. Has to back off. SayMyName in quite the pickle. And his teammates are burning. The critical detail here, DemonSheep, so phenomenal. His early pressure, his positioning. We said maybe he should raid to the north, but now we understand fully why he never did. It was all about guarding the relics. He knew that the castle age hadn't been cracked yet, but he didn't want Tieu getting in position. And because Tieu does not have more than one relic now still banked in that cathedral, he cannot get surplus knights out to counter out the aggression of DemonSheep. Meanwhile, SayMyName starting to get through the infrastructure, but starting to be pushed away. This Mangonel is causing huge frustrations for him. No rush out from the villagers. No pressure felt by Sora Kuma. He doesn't care about the infrastructure right now. He knows that he's just drawing all attention so his teammates can win the game elsewhere. And he's not going to lose his base either. That's the important detail. Mangonel shot scaring again. That is a heavy hit. SayMyName. I think the only thing that you want to say right now is mercy. You want to beg. If anything, you should be saying Sora Kuma's name because Kuma is the daddy. And just a few knights now arriving from DemonSheep will repel SayMyName away. In the meantime, the horse archers wrapping towards England's base, sniping out a few troops here or there. They've already done the damage to the south. Recovery mode still for Tieu, and he's probably going to be the last person to tech up entirely. Wow, I say that. It's between him and SayMyName. SayMyName might be forced to hard invest to try and stay in this game. He's being pushed off the lines. He has surplus gold. He just needs the food. The food is protected for the moment, but they will slowly move across. You can see the ride out. Just trying to get rid of the defenses, then they'll start to move up the Mangonels. Meanwhile, the midfield still fully in control for the side of Tieu Fallen. The Knights are riding out, but they'll never be able to touch. And tech up's complete. DemonSheep in 30 seconds is going to be willing to turn. And remember that his Knights are better. You can't compete as the HRE because of that buff that the Royal Knights get for 3 seconds after a charge. Oh my, SayMyName. Why? You don't need to be on this gold line. That's not your limiting factor anymore. More villagers just being sacrificed to the great god Ciamgyic. Meanwhile, in the south, Tieu gets together a force, rallies, and rides out. He needs to put a dent into Ciamgyic because things are not slowing down. Tieu moves up into Imperial. Is it going to be a good enough edge, though, is the question. Castle Age is finally going to be complete for Tieu. SayMyName still stuck around here. He's going to try and drop the King's Palace, but he has to guard this. Luckily for him, Ciamgyic does move to the south, but they still need a way out. And this is not what I meant by way out. When I said way out, I meant out of the problems they're in, not out of this series, as Sora Kuma is moving across with a composite of archers and crossbows backing up the Mangonels. And they're about to catch SayMyName at a very vulnerable point. They do this on purpose. They see he's the only player in Feudal. They're close by, and they know they can exploit this. They're going to turn the screws. All the while, Ciamgyic drawing more attention from Tieu, trying to pressure him. Remember, it's not a good hit to strike his economy anymore because he has the Palace of Swabi to replace it. Instead, you need to strike elsewhere. Nice raid by Tieu. Needs to put more dents in, slow down Ciamgyic further. But who's going to assist the lad in the north? This is the real problem. DemonSheep rides in. SayMyName is going to experience some pain. Mangonels start firing, and look at the damage done to those outposts. No hope in hell. Now the Rams being built. Sora Kuma seeing an opportunity to stab right at the jugular. And DemonSheep just tickling the toes at the side as he runs down the Lombos and all the villagers, forcing them to garrison. And SayMyName looking like he is about to be KO'd here. There's no relief coming. They're all out of place. They're not able to respond quick enough. A few knights coming through in elite status now, but they don't have the numbers to exceed what DemonSheep has. And DemonSheep will overwhelm Tieu as he tries to slowly trickle in reinforcements. And despite the attempts to raid, the attempts to recover in the south, Tieu is still not there and not able to assist, instead being butchered in his own base as his allies in the north are beginning to fall. And no time at all in this series, guys. It was a fast game 1, a fast game 2, and it will be just as quick of a game 3 here as Tieu Fallen will take the series 3-0 and be the quickest team to rapidly approach the semifinals. I say approach, I mean they're solidified in there. They secure that. This is probably the most dominant display we've seen so far in these quarterfinals. Just not even close. Ciamgyic just taking dictatorial control of the game. And then the bounce back, Sora Kuma so smartly identified. He doesn't hard invest into the camels. Notice that important detail, right? He starts off in camels, he rides them around, he sees, oh, there's actually not that much value. I don't really need this unit. And then he switches back into a static force that can end the game. And that is the balance of play. All enabled by DemonSheep's positioning early on. Fantastically done by him to gatekeep the center of the map, ensuring that the location of most of the relics is never, ever, ever accessible for Tieu. Tieu, think about how long it took him to get those relics together. That is the difference, right? He got stunted in so many ways because of that. And DemonSheep, not only shutting out Tieu's ability to scale quickly at the beginning of Castle, he's denying Tieu. Tieu, because he has to play this more greedy style, he goes for Pro Scouts himself, and is not being enabled by a different player. We see this weird teeter-totter balance where you have 2 out of the 3 players playing Ultra Greed, and it just gives so much ground over DemonSheep in that matchup, considering his counterpart is one of those greed factors. We never seen the same tempo coming out of Tieu. And I think this really does come back to that decision for 2 players to go Pro Scouts. 2 is too much. Either Tieu goes for it, Tieu goes for it. Tieu, with his surplus economy, can actually afford to drop 2 stables, push out scouts, and provide eco for him and his French player in the south. And you need to do that. It's the sacrificial element. If you're not willing to do that for your French player, he can't protect you in that early mid-game. And instead, you get denied the way you did in this mid-game situation where you need access to those relics and you never have a way in. And I think that is the detail that matters, guys. This is why whenever I see a second player on a team going Pro Scouts, I don't like it. I hate it. You step on each other's toes. It's like the same logic behind all 3 players just building knights and only knights, right? Yes, we see games where Mongols and the French go for knights and lancers, but there are side steps. There are options available, right? You wouldn't just default go, we all need horses with swords. Wow. Because you're just setting yourself up for fail. You're stepping on each other's toes. You don't have any composition. It's different here because it's to do with the economy, but it's that whole concept of having roles. If 2 of you are going for Pro Scouts and your third teammate is playing static, yes, England can be aggressive to somewhat cover your early game, but they're also static. They're immobile. They can't show up on the other fronts, and it means that you're stuck defending yourself. Usually the best type of player for a defensive hold when you're being greedy is France, is Mongols, is any civ that has mobilization, because they can respond and they can Benny Hills back and forth. England don't have that same option. I think this was a misdraft for the intended strategy, or you can just call it a misplay when you take this strategy. And as a result, VCL will be stomped out by Tieu Fallen as they take the series 3-0 and will move through to the semifinals. But you know what, guys? If you enjoyed what you saw, make sure you are subscribing on the YouTube side. If you're watching it there, hello, thank you for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, like I just said, and comment down below. The more interactive elements around the videos, the more YouTube likes us, it seems. And make sure you go across to Twitch and follow there. If you're watching on Twitch, why haven't you followed already? If you got the Prime, maybe give a boy Prime. These suits don't pay for themselves. I wish they did.